Hello, and welcome back to Infinite Roleplay. My name is Nelson, and today we're going to be talking about Superdeadly D&D. And the first day of night game that's going to be coming up, I'm going to be running in the next few days on my channel. Now, the last Superdeadly D&D game I ran, unfortunately, the deadliness was tied to the rules and environmental hazards, and I feel like it lost its flavor. Which is me. I wasn't that satisfied with the game at all. And the reason being is that I followed the actual rules as close to the rule book as possible. And realized that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is completely for player character empowerment. So you know what? To hell with that. I got some custom rules now. We're going to be starting with these custom rules, talking about short and long rests. A short rest equals 8 hours. A long rest equals 5 days. Now, the only change is that exhaustion levels heal upon a short rest. All skills, abilities, and spell slots that would normally take a long rest to recharge still take that same long rest, which is now 5 days. Environmental hazards and severe weather? Well, the rules in the DMG are extraordinarily lax, and again, all about the player character empowerment and not about that gridly, deadly, fast-paced sort of, oh my god, kind of game. With that in mind, environmental hazards and the severity of the difficulty classes rolled, and frequency in which those difficulty classes are going to be rolled or upon GM discretion, as long as they feel it propels the kind of feel and danger of the area that they are trying to represent. Now, to a little bit more tweaking was massive damage rolls. Now, massive damage in this, my version of Superdeadly D&D, when a creature is hit by an attack that equals or exceeds twice the target's Constitution score, that target must make a DC 15 Constitution save. Failure of that save would require them to roll a D10 and consult the massive damage chart. The massive damage chart has also been tweaked. The rolls are as follows. On a roll of 1, the creature is dropped to 0 hit points and must start making death saving throws. If there are any special effects, skills, abilities that trigger upon dropping to 0 hit points, they of course still happen. On a roll of 2 or 3, the creature drops to 0 hit points but is stable. On a roll of 4 or 5, the creature takes damage equal to half its maximum hit points, so that if you roll that result twice from 2 separate massive damage rolls, you're probably going to drop to 0 and need to start making saves. On a roll of 6 or 7, the creature gains 1 level of exhaustion. On rolls of 8 or 9, the creature is stunned until the end of its next turn. On a roll of 10, the creature gains disadvantage to attack rolls and ability checks until the end of its next turn. Those are the results that can be rolled on the modified massive damage chart. This is to increase that feeling of deadliness and make sure that it continues at any level, from level 1 to level 20. Now, granted, on level 20, you're going to be having, a lot more hit points, but the key is that your saves are going to be higher. If you have proficiency in Constitution saving throws, you're good to go. There's still that slim chance, but that's how you're representing growing tougher and tougher and not having, 300 hit points to slowly chop away. And, if you get hit by a CR5 creature at level 20 and it just happens to deal enough damage to provoke a roll on that chart, that CR5 creature can take you out, which in my opinion is the way to go. It keeps that deadliness in people's heads, and I as a player love that, and I as a GM also love that. moving on to the next modification is the lasting injuries. Now, I might, just call them injuries because, let's face it, these are pretty harsh. Going through them, on a critical hit, so if you roll a 20, or if you have some sort of class features that allow you to critically hit on anything else but a 20, you can choose, and as a GM I would always choose the lasting injuries. You can choose between adding an additional die of damage or rolling on the critical injuries chart. Maybe I should call it that, critical injuries chart. Okay. It's a D20 roll, and that's a siren because they already know. The ambulance is already coming to it's already coming to save your characters. They already know. So keep that in mind. So on a D20 roll, the D20 roll is for normal crit. If you have features such as brutal critical from the barbarian or savage critical from the racial feature of being half-orc, you can reduce that die size. These rules are, of course, custom homebrew that I will be tweaking slightly as time goes by and then releasing for everyone to just have fun with. So the results of that D20 roll are as follows. On a roll of 1, you lose your head. It means you're dead. On a roll of 2, you lose an arm or a hand. Self-explanatory. On a roll of 3, you lose a foot or a leg. Again, self-explanatory. On a roll of 4, you lose an eye. So, you take a penalty on like a disadvantage on anything requiring sight, and you're one step closer to being blind. On a roll of 5, you become lame. Not like, dude, you're lame, man, don't talk to me. Not that kind of lame. But, you've got that permanent limp, that damage to your legs or your body that makes your speed move slower. So you reduce your speed by 1 unit, which is 1 square, 1 meter, 1 yard, 1 5-foot step. After making a double move, a run, or a charge, you have to roll an easy dexterity check. So GMs keep that in mind. Give them like a DC 10 dexterity check. But failure ends your movement and you fall prone. However, magical healing, and only magical healing, can remove that limp. On a roll of 6 or 7, you gain an internal injury. So it's going to be a moderate Constitution save. Just keep that in mind, GMs. Probably like a DC 15. Each round to see if you can do anything. Failure of that save results in you losing your action and reactions, and all your reactions for that round. Bonus actions can still be taken. A second result of an internal injury, while you already have an internal injury, upgrades the difficulty to the next level. So I would suggest from a DC 15 to a DC 20 Constitution check. A third result of the internal injury makes it impossible for you to take any actions or reactions. It's pretty self-explanatory. No roll is even given. You cannot take actions or reactions. You are getting messed up. Again, that's 3 results of having internal injuries. So if you have 3 internal injuries at any one given time, you're not supposed to be fighting. Okay, magical healing, or 10 consecutive complete days of rest, of complete bed rest. So 10 consecutive long rest. No, 2 long rests. 10 consecutive days of complete bed rest, doing nothing extraneous, can heal 1 internal injury. Magical healing, of course, heals 1 internal injury. Magical healing is good, but again, because of the rules of having long rests being 5 days, it's a similar or same effect. which is, I'm hoping, is the intention. Or I'm hoping it's the same effect, because that is the intention of what I wrote. So on a roll of 8, 9, or 10, you get broken ribs. Roll an easy toughness or constitution check, so DC 10. Each round, failure results in you losing your action and all reactions. Very similar to an internal injury, however, a lot easier to overcome. A second result on broken ribs, while you already have broken ribs, upgrades the broken ribs into an internal injury. Again, magical healing or 10 consecutive days of complete bed rest can heal one result of the broken ribs. This is, the intention of this is to have, escalating. The more you're beat up, the more you beat up. You're going to suffer. You're going to be losing effectiveness as you go. Now, the last 3 results aren't as bad. On a roll of 11, 12, or 13, you gain a horrible scar. That's pretty much it. The only mechanical changes to having a horrible scar is that your intimidations, you can roll advantage because you look really mean and scary, but if you try to be nice and be like, hey baby, how you doing, it's not going to go so well for you. Now, the escalating results of having a horrible scar are as follows. Horrible scars, their bonuses and penalties can stack up to 3 times, gaining a 4th horrible scar result while having 3 other horrible scars results in an internal injury instead. Magical healing, and only magical healing, can remove one of these horrible scars. Now, the reason I did it as such, because I'm thinking about those scars that literally remove sort of flesh and muscle tissue and have those indentations on the parts of the body where those horrible scars were received. If you tend to get a lot of those, I would only assume that you get really, really, really messed up. On a roll of 14, 15, or 16, you gain a festering wound. You reduce your maximum hit points by 1. Alright? For each festering wound you have every day, everything wrong. For each festering wound that you have on your character, every day that you have, every complete day you have that festering wound. If you go to sleep, you have a festering wound. When you wake up, your max hit points is reduced by 1. At 0 hit points, of course, you die because you have 0 maximum hit points. Magical healing or 10 consecutive heal checks of like DC 15 or moderate difficulty can heal that festering wound. Festering wounds stack. So if you're having one really bad day and you get like 3 or 4 festering wounds, you're reducing your max hit points by 3 to 4 every day that you have that festering wound. That's scary, right? Awesome. But magical healing was, you get a cure moderate, lay on hands, you're good to go. Minor scar. You gain a minor scar on a roll of 17, 18, 19, or 20. So on a critical hit, rolling on that chart, if you get a minor scar, you're good to go. It's only a visual change to your character. You just get to add to your battle wounds, and that's it. That's all that I have written for my Super Deadly D&D. Any thoughts, suggestions, comments, feel free to post them below. I'm hoping that these changes that I've implemented into 5th edition make it feel a little bit more like 2nd edition as far as deadliness, without having to go so far as save or die for everything. It's a small possibility, but it's not the norm. It's going to punish you for being silly and rushing into combat. Also, without having to get rid of magic, hopefully get that feel of a low magic game. Since the higher spells, higher levels spells are going to be so coveted in this world, because to get them back takes so long. Also, performing spells as rituals becomes more of a thing. That's not funny, dude. It's serious. This is super deadly. Super deadly D&D. So, again, any questions, comments, suggestions, or modifications you would like to see, just let me know in the comments below. My name is Nelson. This has been Infinite Roleplay. I'll check you ladies and gents next time. Peace.